in the sand, right? And stand and make sure that we don't um, we don't allow folks to cross a particular line or certain lines, right? And it's you know she talks about why boundaries are important, and she talks about the fact that we should you got to be careful not to try to change somebody. It's hard enough to walk through things and like to I don't even like to use the phrase deal with people, but to be able to adjust and to interact with people in certain ways, it's just a difficult thing. And people have their own stuff, right? We talked about last week how, or the week before, about how depending on who you are or where you come from, the things that you've been through in your life shape you and make you who you are, and that's accurate. Like no matter what part of life you're in, right? You never know what somebody's been through. You never know why they are they react to things a certain way, and the only way you'll know is if the relationship gets stronger. The more you talk about things, the more you address things. I've told this story before. I have a friend who I lived with during seminary, and he wouldn't take me to the airport to save his life. Like it didn't matter. Like at the time, so for the Chicago folks in the room, we lived near Douglas Park, near Roosevelt in California, right? That's not really far from Midway Airport, right? It's not too far. It's 15 minutes tops, and you don't even have to get on the expressway to get there. But he wouldn't take me to the airport. We lived in the same house, and he would not take me to the airport. It didn't matter what was happening. It didn't matter what time the flight was. He wanted to take me to the airport. I had another friend though that lived across from Operation Push on 55th, 53rd and Drexel on the south side. That then he would drive all the way to the west side to pick me up, take me to the airport, and even if I had to go all the way to O'Hare, my other friend would take me. He would come from the south side, pick me up on the west side, and then swing back to go to O'Hare to drop me off. But the person who both really good friends, like they're no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like if I ever needed anything, I call both of them, and they would both do everything they could, except the one wasn't gonna take me to the airport, right? So that used to bother me, right? It like bothered me to no end because it was like, bro, we like you two doors down in the other room, huh? No. And so it bothered me for a while until one day I just said, you know what? I'm gonna stop asking you to take me to the airport. I didn't tell him that, but I stopped asking him. I stopped asking him to take me to the airport, and things got better. I didn't feel any kind of way about it because I knew where it was. I set that boundary, but also in my boundary, I did not like stop being who I was, right? Because that's the other dangerous thing, that people change who they are because they feel like, well, if you won't do it for me, I'm not gonna do it for you, right? And then when that happens, when you do that, you take away from who you are, and you really affecting you now at this point because you're not like living up to who you really are. So I would take him to the airport. One time, him and a friend of his was traveling, and they was on the way back to Chicago in the winter time, and their flight got delayed like 3-4 hours. So I ended up having to pick dude up at 4 o'clock in the morning from O'Hare. I did it because at the same time, even though he wouldn't take me to the airport, the way I operate is that if you need me to take you to the airport and I don't have anything else going on, even if I got something going on, I might even try to work it so I could still do it for you, right? Because that's just how I was raised, right? So it doesn't. And when I say that's how I was raised, doesn't mean that he's a bad person. I don't know what his hang up is with the airport. I don't know to this day, but I know if I need something, I can still call him, right? When I needed something that was way more important than like a ride to the airport, I knew I could call him. I could still call him to this day. Like, so, but you have to know where people are. Like, you have to understand where folks are and know, okay, that's not going to work. I can't do that. Like, I can't ask that person that, because if I ask that person that, really what I'm doing is I'm going to get myself in a pickle, because I'm the one that's going to feel some type of way about it when it doesn't happen. Right? So, and some of the issue is that we try to change people. You can't, that you're not going to, you can't change somebody, right? Even though you like, it doesn't make sense to you why that wouldn't happen or why that couldn't happen. And you like, well, I would do it. But then, I tell people all the time that you can't move into relationships or move into interactions with people based on what you would do, or how you would treat you. You can't walk into relationships with that same expectation that the things that I would do in response to what I'm getting ready to do, that the other person should do it, because then you always gonna let yourself down. You always gonna be disappointed. Like, every single day of your life, you will be disappointed if you expect other people to do what you would do for them, because it just doesn't happen.
Well, my own father wouldn't loan me money. I could never ask my father for money, but everybody else could. My brothers and siblings could ask him, and he'll find the money for them. And I used to say, why is it if my brother or my sister asks you for money and you give it to them? He said, because if I don't give it to them, they'll suffer.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll figure out a way. He's like, you'll manage.
Yeah.
He said, but they won't be able to manage.
Yeah.
But he would never. So then I stopped asking him for money. Like, if I needed money, he was the last one I'd ask. I wouldn't ask him, because I knew he wasn't going to give it to me.
Yeah.
So I just stopped asking him to loan me money.
There are a lot of times people ask people questions. People can ask you questions, and then you can ask them the same question. You never want to answer.
Mm-mm.
That's true. Right, they won't.
They don't want to answer. They don't like the question. They offended that you asked the question, and they just got done asking you the same thing. All right.
You could ask, so how do you want the test? Then they ask you, you say, that's a feeling. And then, no, I don't want to talk about it.
Right.
You just told them something.
Right. Right.
So it goes back to forgiving, but you can't forget, because I always forgave him because he never loaned me money. But, I never forgot that he couldn't lend me any money.
Yeah, no.
My
Yeah.
sister could ask my father for money. I remember because my mother was teasing me about something. She said, yeah, so your sister can ask your father for money, and he'll just give it to her. But me, I had to do that. Like, keep home before he did it.
Anybody else, right? Yeah. Ooh, right. My daughter just,
So she talks about boundaries and how you have to protect yourself in the interim. Like, no matter what it is, like, you have to practice protecting yourself. And you can't feel bad about it either, right? There's so many people that feel bad about, protecting themselves. You can't feel bad about that. You can't feel bad about not being available. It is what it is. You might not be available. And so people get in trouble when they allow themselves to feel some kind of way or to feel guilty because they just weren't available. You can't operate that way. It's not fair to you. It's not going to edify you. It's not going to make things better. Sometimes you just can't do things, and that's okay. All right, but people don't realize that. And then some people give you a hard time about saying no. They feel like no is a curse word. That no means you don't like me. No has nothing to do with each individual person. It has everything to do with the situation and some circumstances and what you can or cannot do. Hmm? Yep.
Can't afford it. You shouldn't be big. He wanted the most out of it. I said, no, I said, not that I can't do it for you. I said, I'm not putting myself in that position. I said, obviously you don't need it. I said, you do something you want. I said, you don't. I said, well, you can't do it. It's pretty good. I said, I know you don't like it. I said, but until you build yourself up
Yep.
to be able to be self-sufficient, I said, oh, yeah. I need to do. That's one thing they want to ask me. I'll do anything they want. I will not co-sign for you to get a car, apartment. I said, no, I said, you're not ready.
Yeah.
So I need some responsibility.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things I took away from this chapter was the idea that we have to be like brutally honest with ourselves and take an assessment of how we feel and where we are, because a lot of us operate in that I'm okay mode. I'm okay. I'm all right. I'm fine, right? But you're not, right? And, being brutally honest with yourself and reminding yourself that I say it all the time. I say to people, I ask people how they doing, and I'll stop and I'll say, but it's okay not to be okay. Like if you're not okay, that's all right. There's no shame in that, and you gotta own that. If you can own not being okay, then that's the first step in getting down to the bottom line, to the bottom line of all the other stuff that's happening, and realizing that. She says on 126, she said, I'm the only one losing my mind. I'm the one losing sleep. I'm the one jumping up and down, angry, waving my arms and red flags, doing all I can to save them, while they're in some sort of oblivious stupor where they can't hear me, or in a pride vortex where they refuse to hear me. How can I possibly not try and take control of the situation? She said she wrote in the journal then at that point, when I share biblical discernment with someone I love very much, but then they go away and do the opposite, it's maddening. My bottled up wisdom in the midst of your chaos produces extreme anxiety. My resulting reaction is not me being dramatic or overly emotional. I'm simply trying to save your life. Well, you can't save everybody. And that's okay too. Like, you can't feel bad for not being able to save everybody. Like, it's okay that you can't save everybody. Could you imagine because we all got our own stuff too, Brother Irvin. Could you imagine hanging by your fingertips from like a cliff and somebody else needs your help, but the only way to help them is to take both of your hands off of the cliff while you trying to hold on and stop, you trying not to fall, but the only way to help them is to let go. And then now when you let go, they didn't have anything to hold on. You don't have anything to hold on. Now both of y'all over with. That's not gonna do anything for anybody. Like, y'all both end up in a bad spot. We both can't end up in a bad spot. That doesn't mean I want you to be in a bad spot. But I certainly got to choose me before I choose. If I don't choose me, if I don't watch out for myself, if I don't take care of me, right? in a way that is still loving and caring, and I got my arms open still, and I want to do right by the world, right? That's why I say on Sundays when it comes to the offering, like, man, pay your rent. Like, take care of yourself. Like, you have to. Like, God provided sustenance so you could do just that. Take care of yourself. People don't take care of themselves and they get mad at the church. They get upset and say, y'all took all this and you did this and did that, right? And then now I need, right? But the church might not be in a spot to be able to help you through some of that stuff. When in fact, had you decided not to use your credit card that day and buy the things that you bought and let your balance get to where it was, you wouldn't be in the spot that you're in, right? Now the church is benevolent. We try to help. We try to help whoever we can, right? But that's why I always say you got to take care of yourself first. You can be giving and you can be sacrificial and you can give of yourself in tons of ways, but yeah. She said, saving someone isn't possible if they don't agree that they need to be saved. Even if I get them off the tracks in this moment, they'll climb right back on them tomorrow. And if your heart is more committed to change, if your heart is more committed to change than theirs is, you may delay the train wreck, but you will not be able to save them from it. And from what I've experienced, the more you keep jumping on the tracks to try to rescue them, the more likely that the train gonna run over both of y'all. She said, I don't say that lightly. I say it lovingly because it's true. I wish with every fiber of my being I could tell you that you can do enough to one day cause that person to change, to give enough, to love enough, to forgive enough, to beg enough, to talk enough, or to control enough, but it's not true. Change can only happen for them from the inside out. Truly sustainable, lasting change must come from the inside of their own heart, not from pressure exerted from the outside in. Like I talk to people all the time. They're like, Pastor, I'm praying for this person, and they won't get it. They need to get it, and I'm at my wit's end. Why are you at your wit's end? You shouldn't be at your wit's end about their situation. You can want the best for somebody. You can encourage them. You could do like Brother Ron and say, you know when people walk up to me and go, hey man, you got a cigarette? Nah, I don't smoke. You shouldn't either, but I don't have one, right? And that's the best I could do for you, right? Or when people ask me for money, I don't carry money. I don't like to give out money. I'll buy you some food. I have on more than one occasion left the person and said, you gonna be right here for a few minutes? And I will drive. Once that happened to me, I was in Florida. I went to, there's a place called Tropical Chicken, but it's called Pollo Tropical. And I went through the drive-thru because I was going to lunch, and I bought myself some food, and I bought them some food. And when I got back to where they were supposed to be, I could not find them. So I gave the food to somebody else.
I'm just like, what? Could you just get the money? I said, no. I said, you're hungry. I
Right.
I'm not saying nothing. You tell me you're hungry, then you tell. I tell what do you want to eat?
Mm-hmm.
And
She says, think about CPR. Exerting pressure from the outside in can temporarily pump blood through somebody's veins, but they can't live in that state, and neither can you. If their heart doesn't start beating on its own, you must eventually stop the compressions, at which time you can then turn them over to professionals who can shock their heart and continue to try chest compressions as well. But at some point, even the very best doctors and nurses know the heart has to beat on its own for life to be sustained. She says that, now that doesn't mean that I don't continue to care about the person, nor does it mean that I cut them entirely out forever, but it does mean that I change my role and job description. I want them saved, but I am not their savior. I want them to get better, but I can't work harder at it than they can. They need Jesus. They need self-control. So I shift from efforts of control to efforts of compassion. Compassion lets me love the person, empathize with their pain, and acknowledge their side of things, even if I don't agree with them. And it allows me to speak into a situation. But after I share my wisdom, it's my favorite part. But after I share my wisdom, my advice, my discernment, I make conscious choices not to rescue them in any way if they walk up and do the opposite. She says, I can cry for them, I can rejoice for them, because that's biblical. Romans 12:15 gives those exact instructions. But weeping with them and rejoicing with them does not mean trying to take control of their out of control choices and behaviors. We can forgive them, but we cannot control them, and we should not enable them. So then she goes on to talk about enabling, and so it's tough when you love somebody. I think about you know, I think about parents and their children sometimes. Like you want the best for your child, and your child can pull on your heartstrings, and sometimes your children can put you in compromising positions because you just want the best for them. You know, no matter what they've been doing. I think about granddaddy, right, and at least one of my uncles, right, that granddaddy would do anything to make sure he was good. And, you know, we've had to like deal with those kinds of things and fight through that stuff. And, you know, you can't want more than the other person wants. Doesn't matter who it is. Doesn't matter how much you love them or how much you care for them. There's a point where you need to just take your hands off and go, well, I'm still here if you need me, but not to do some of those other things that you may need done. So it's not easy though.
There's no mother pays me $1 for every time that I lose. That's like 42, 43 times. And, well, that was like, shot when we were in high school, but when I went to college, first year when they said the freshman 15,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't see that for me at least 30. So by the time I graduated from college, I was probably like 220. Since I should have been with the grade, I think I was 160, so I was about 60 pounds. And I guess, she didn't give up, but she never tried to eventually. I was wrestling, I was 75, and taking it all out. And then I ended up losing like 130 something. And I was like in 1992, I finished and took it all out.
And you walk. And you walk. We can't pay you to take a ride nowhere. Yeah. Yeah. Brother Urban made me want to walk. I was walking today. Since the weather kind of changed up. But yeah. So now they fuss. They say, Brother Irvin don't want to ride. I said, Mama, he don't want to ride. He all right. He's gonna walk. He appreciates you offering the ride, but he's not going. He's okay. I see Brother Irvin walking. I think you like a guardian angel, man. Sometimes when I ride by and I see, I say, there go Brother Irvin. So, but yeah, she talks about I don't know, skip too many. She said, while we're affected by other, this is on 128 and 129. because I guess there's a picture in the regular version. She says, while we are affected by other people's actions, we're not held accountable for the actions. We are held accountable, though, for both our actions and reactions. So we have to make sure, to be honest about the effect someone else is having on us and only be around them as much as our reactions and actions have the capacity to handle. And although it may seem counterintuitive, this is biblical love. And when we look at the context of the verses around Romans 12:15, we find that beautiful balance. Look at Romans 12:9 through 21 below. And think about what keeps you in place to live this way, as well as what pushes you past your spiritual capacity to do what these verses instruct us to do. It says, love must be sincere. Hate what is evil. Cling to what is good. Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Share with the Lord's people who are in need. Practice hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Mourn with those who mourn. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, but be willing to associate with people of low position. Do not be conceited. Do not repay anyone for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath, for it is written, it is mine to avenge, I will repay, says the Lord. On the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he's thirsty, give him something to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Remember, we're working towards keeping our compassion for others without slipping into having out-of-control reactions to their out-of-control actions. So that's tough. It's hard. Yeah.
Funny you say that too, because when my sister went there too, she got angry at it. She hadn't spoken to me since earlier in September. She called me last Tuesday. First text me, what you doing, Alex? I'm in my little room. And I know, I know. I said, I think that's it. You know, you're fucking well, everything goes good. So I'm like, okay. So the next day, I was like, I ain't saying anything to her. Like, we have spoken to since September of 2023.
Sheesh.
Because you were mad because I put you in the gut. And of course, the Wednesday, she called me again Wednesday. I was going good. And after the Monday, and I just laughed. And I didn't say a word. I just looked at her. You have spoken to me since September. First time you called me. Because she knows my other sibling, I was going to tell you. I just kind of laughed about it and said, you mentioned about that.
Right.
But it was like, kind of like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. Like trying to love people. Trying to love people is hard anyway, right? Because you roll over one day and you didn't sleep well, and you wake up and you're not doing well and grouchy, and they're offended about something, and then all of a sudden you don't know what you said. All I said was hello, or they act like I said hello, and they act like they ain't hear me. Like they act like or they were looking dead at me when I spoke to them. They might have been looking past you, right? Right? Because you never know what somebody's walking through, and so we always have to be careful. And it's a hard thing to do, to manage like your feelings and to manage your perceptions, and I have to catch myself sometimes, right? I told this story one time during a sermon. I was talking about Irvin Willie called me about somebody that was about Jesse and said that Jesse's mad at you because you didn't come see him. And I was like, but he didn't call me, he texted me. And I didn't have Willie's number saved. So I was like, what you mean I didn't go see Jesse? I did go see Jesse. And the 2 to 3 times I tried to go see him, I couldn't get in his room because he was downstairs having a procedure or something else was going on. He was like physical therapy one time. He was getting something else done another time. And like something else was happening. And I was like, so I'm reading the text and I'm angry because I'm reading it and that somebody said, somebody's mad at you because you didn't. But I'm in my out loud, I'm going, I went this time, I went that time, I went, what do you mean I didn't go see them, right? Matter of fact, the hospital was way out in the suburbs. So I drove all the way out to go see this person on more than one occasion. And who is this person telling me I didn't, right? Now, none of that reaction I would have had with Willie. But because I didn't have the number saved and I didn't know who it was, I got offended immediately. And I had to catch myself because I was going to text back and go, I don't know who this is, but you don't know what you're talking about, right? And then would have had a different interaction than I would have had with Willie, right? But then I'm grateful that the Holy Spirit kicked in and was like, you better find out whose number that is. And then I text Chris and said, Chris, whose number is this? 2 minutes later, Chris texted me and said, Willie Jones. That message meant something different then. And then I said, oh, all right. Willie don't know that I did all that. So then I called Willie and I said, hey, Willie, what's happening, man? I said, I got your message and, I tried to go see Jesse this time, that time, and this time. He said, oh, okay. He said, well, he hasn't had his phone and, was explaining all this other stuff to me. And then he gave me a update as to what was happening with Jesse. But if the Holy Spirit hadn't checked me and made me pause before I reacted, right? If God doesn't work in my life in ways that make me pause before and not say the first thing that pops in my head, then a lot of stuff is totally different, right? So it's hard. People need to know that this kind of thing isn't easy, right? I'm sure, Brother Ron, you got stories about, and Mom, y'all got stories about patients that are just miserable, right? And all right, but grateful that God bridle your tongue, right? And stop you from saying the first thing on your mind. Yeah, every now and again, some stuff slip out that somebody might have needed to hear.
God lets you do
right.
because I had to chat with him. And I thought he was like, I said, I'm going to stop you right now. I said, I'm not your wife, and I'm not your child. I said, I'm an adult. I said, you call in my office. I said, so you're going to change your tone right now. I said, do I make myself clear? It's like, well, I'm sorry. I said, that's not my issue. I said, I'm giving you respect. I said, so respect it.
Yeah.
And he told, and he was like, I'm so sorry, but.
And that's fair, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Like, you didn't say anything inappropriate. Like, I used to tell people that all the time when I was at Enterprise and they wanted to be mad at me about this and that. I'm like, hey, can we go speak outside? And we would go outside and I said, hey, you can't talk to me like that. Like, I want to help you. I'll do everything I can to help you, but I can't help you if you're going to talk to me sideways, right? And now that's your choice, whether you're going to change how you coming at me so I can help you, because I can't even hear you right now, right? The way you coming at me. So, and that's okay. Like, that's fair. There's nothing wrong with that. You're not doing anything wrong with, that's a boundary. That's a boundary, right? That's what we talking about tonight. Ron said a boundary. He said, listen, you're not going to talk to me like that. Line in the sand, period. Don't cross it, right? But then now the other person knows where they stand and they fix their behavior, right? And that's how you help people. You help people fix their behavior because you tell them what you're not going to take. I tell people that all the time, especially like, so people who desire to be married, right? And they just let a dude do whatever, or they just like continue to accept stuff. And I tell young ladies, I said, man, you know, you're in more control than you realize. And if you stop accepting some things from people, you still gonna have knuckleheads that do the stuff that they want to do. But the right person is gonna step up to where you say, we sitting over here, we sitting up here. We're not doing that thing down in the gutter. We're gonna come sit up here, and this is where I expect you to. This is the floor, right? And anything else is above, right? And so you can't anything below the floor. I'm not dealing with. You ain't gotta. You could lose my number, right? And then, you know, they start to realize that we all step up when we're in places where we want to be. It doesn't matter who it is. We do better when we're called to do better. When people set boundaries, when people expect us to do better, and you want people you want to be in somebody's life, you make adjustments because they said, listen, I love you, but I need you to come up here. And if you can't come up here, we can't be in the same kind of relationship that we're in right now. That doesn't mean I don't love you. That don't mean I don't care. But it means that for my own sake, we have to be up here in order for us to do anything at all. And that's okay. Man, it's all right.
I dated someone too. How you go to church so much? I said, I was and that right there was the red flag. I was like, and I said to myself, it's not gonna work.
Yeah.
And I stopped it and I said, why go to church so much? And like, maybe you need to go.
Mm-hmm.
And that response I got from them, I'm like, oh, I said.
Yeah, this is it. That's enough. Cause, you know, and I remember, and we're gonna end on this. I remember people would say, well, how come you don't like you and so and so not hanging out anymore? I said, oh, cause she believed in she said she was what do people say? I'm spiritual, not religious. And I was like, she got books all over the house with all of these like other stuff, and she didn't believe in necessarily in a higher power. She didn't talk bad against it. She wasn't an atheist, right? She was a universe person, right? So, and I have no issue with that, but it just wasn't for me. So I knew that, and it was okay for me to like move on from that. And so, yeah, you got to be careful to do those kinds of things. Our former ministerial staff person, Chad Edwards, the pastor, was in here. I don't know if he's still here, but we miss you too, Chad. Miss Sharon all the way in Louisiana. Miss Marion, we love you, and we appreciate you, ma'am. As a reminder, we're doing Forgiving What You Can't Forget. It's a good book. We'll be in chapter 10 on next week. And so we're looking forward to seeing you guys on Sunday. Every day that the Lord wakes us up is a good day. And so let me pray for you as we leave this place. God, we love you, we honor and adore you, we bless you, magnify your holy name. We thank you for your love, care, and kindness. We thank you for all that you're doing in this season. We thank you that, God, you allow us to see that boundaries are okay, that we can set them and not feel bad about the fact that we had to set them, that we can protect ourselves, that we can walk through and do the things we need to do in an effort to be and just who you called us to be. Now, God, continue to bless us, protect us. Watch out for those who have issues with shelter tonight. Be with all of us is our prayer. In Jesus' name, amen. Be well.